Guys, what's up? Darcy here at 6strings9lives. So what I originally planned to do today was a top 5 European power metal bands. But I started putting my list together and noticed that I had, a lot from Germany and, kind of narrowing it down to my top 5. And then I thought, looking at these, there is elements of traditional metal, speed metal, and power metal in all of these bands. Some, different degrees, some more power, less speed, and a good mixture. But I thought, you know what, I'm just going to combine all these three, heavy, speed, power, and do a top 10 of my favorite German bands of heavy, speed, and power. And like I said, different degrees of all of that stuff you'll see when I get to my list. A lot of these bands I've been listening to for years. Some of them, newer too for sure. But I thought to save myself, that one person, one or two people in the comment section say, that's not power metal. You know what? This is all elements of everything. So that's what I thought I would touch on. I am not a huge on the symphonic end of power metal anyways. This is about as, a couple of these bands in this batch have dealt with, orchestration and, keyboards, things like that. It's all evident, sprinkled throughout all of this. And I thought, why not? Let's just do a top 10, actually with one honorable mention. Like I said, one of my favorite countries to produce metal has always been Germany. And the other thing is this gives you a good snapshot of, if you're newer to my channel especially, you don't have to go backtrack. Nobody expects you to go to watch all those old videos. But this will give you a good kind of rundown of what I'm into on this end of things, instead of going through every ranking video or every update. So yeah, and again, if you are newer to the channel, welcome. And if you're one of the usual suspects, welcome to you too. But we'll get started with my honorable mention. Not even an honorable mention, really. It's just a mention because this is a band that falls into this category of, speed, power, and there is a slight, obviously a difference between German power metal and, kind of that symphonic end of it. And there's many countries that these bands come from. But this one falls right into this category, a band that I've really started to get into over the past 6 months, and that's Brainstorm. So what I'll do is I'll go through, I'm going to just show you 2 items from each band. Not necessarily my favorite from each band, but we're just going to touch base on, my top 10 for sure. And I would say 10 through 5, kind of loose order, but those top 5 are pretty solid for me. And I'll try to mention other things as I go, as I usually do. But so Brainstorm, I picked up quite a few of their albums. They've been around since 1997. 14 studio albums. Their newest one is coming out here on February 28th, called Plague of Rats. Definitely looking forward to that one. But here's 2 that I've picked up that I really am enjoying. First one is from, what year is this one? 2005. This is Liquid Monster. This is absolutely one of my favorites so far of what I own, which is only maybe 5 of their albums. But if you're a Brainstorm fan, I'm pretty sure you're going to mention this one too. And another one of my favorites, and this is one, it was literally sitting on my shelf for a couple of years. It was a gift to me, given to me. And I finally picked it up and like, why didn't I pick this up sooner? These guys are right into that metal that I love. And like I said, you got elements, maybe more on the power metal side with these guys. They do have albums that dip into some speed and just metal, period. But here's the second one, Scary Creatures. The title track for this, fantastic. But so there's kind of my honorable mention, Brainstorm, a band that I think I probably own maybe 6 out of the 14 of their albums. So they're coming out with their 15th album. But let's get started on the top 10. Number 10, You probably, if you're watched any of my videos over the past couple years, you know that I'm a huge fan of this guy. His name is Herman Frank. And Herman Frank, you would know him from Accept, Victory. Well, I'm going to show you another one too. But he's been around for a while. Due for a new Herman Frank Band album this year. I think the last one was 2021. But here's kind of I'm going to show you my favorite album from Herman Frank so far. Only 5 studio albums. Like I said, really, started this end of his career in 2009. He left Accept after the Blind Rage album, I think. But here's Right in the Guts. This one came out in 2016. There's Herman Frank too. This fantastic album. This is, check out the actually the title track, awesome. Raise Your Hand, that's another one to check out too, and a song called Black Star. The vocalist for Herman Frank's band is Rick Altsey. If you know that name, he's also, I think he's still currently the vocalist for Master Plan, which was Roland Grappau's band, who was in Helloween. And the connections between all these German bands with musicians and things like that, it's producers like, Charlie Bauerfeind, things like that. It's crazy, the web of people and things in these bands. But I will try to mention some of them. I'm not going to remember everything, but Right in the Guts. If you have not heard Herman Frank so far, there's where I'm going to point you. And here's another, this is basically a super group, but Herman Frank is on this album. This is a super group with Schiemer from Destruction on vocals and bass, and Stefan Schwartzman on drums, and Herman Frank on guitar. This is Panzer, or maybe better known as the German Panzer. Album is called Send Them All to Hell. This one came out 2015. Fantastic album. I mean, if you like, the thrash band Destruction and Schiemer's vocals, he's great on here. And this is just more, metal, speed, power stuff. And check this album out. Released on Nuclear Blast. Yeah, there's the lineup right there too. Stefan Schwartzman, fantastic drummer too. You know about Herman Frank, but Stefan's been in Accept, he's been in UDO, Running Wild. He even did an album with Crocus, one album with Crocus, and a lot of other bands. But yeah, so Herman Frank is on this. Definitely check it out. Moving on to, let's call this number 9. And just because one's lower than the other, this isn't a ranking. This is just it's a placement. I am newer to some of these bands. But here's one that falls more in the power metal end of things versus, actually this band started off in the speed metal, but like I said, and I've said it before, years ago, we didn't pick apart. If I was doing a channel back 50 years ago, it would just be a blob of everything anyways, right? We would call it all metal. But yeah, here's Blind Guardian. So overall in the scheme of things, I am not... I was late to the party with Blind Guardian is what I'm trying to say. So this so far, I don't own everything from Blind Guardian. I'm missing 2 of their albums, and I have not done a ranking yet, but so far this is one of my favorites. I won't commit to saying it's my exact favorite yet, but one of. This is Imaginations from the Other Side. This is actually a dual disc set from Nuclear Blast that was reissued, I think around 2018 or 2019. It has the original on here and the remix. The remix sounds fantastic. But if you're a Blind Guardian fan, you definitely know about this album already. And I will eventually pick up those last 2. What am I missing? A Twist in the Myth and one other one. But the second thing I'll show you from Blind Guardian right here is their latest album from 2022, The God Machine. This is fantastic. This was high up on my list of 2022 albums. Yeah, right from like 3 standout tracks I'm looking at right now. Deliver Us from Evil, awesome. Where are we to? Secrets of the American Gods, and Blood of the Elves. I think all three of those had some sort of video or single release, but I'm hoping we do see a new Blind Guardian album here in 2026. Like I said, too, out of two or three of these bands, this one would be high up on the power end of things. Those soaring vocals, twin leads, lots of double bass throughout all of this stuff. But there's Blind Guardian. All right, let's call this number 8. So here's a band I was really late to the party also. And they are in that category of so-called German Big Four, with 3 of the other bands that are on here for sure. Did I mention one yet? No, I haven't. But here is Rage. And what I picked out for Rage is, first of all, they've been around since 1985. They have 26 studio albums. That is just a crazy amount of output in that period of time. They're right up there with Loudness with pumping out the albums. I think Loudness probably has 26 or 27 albums out also. But what I picked out today are just 2. Again, I haven't ranked them all and I don't own them all, but out of the 26 studio albums, I'm only missing 6. So those last 6, I'll probably take it pretty slow because, again, you get all of this stuff at once. It just starts blending in. You don't even know what you're listening to. It just sounds like a big blob of shit. So we'll slow down on those last 6. There's no rush. But what I've done today is just picked out 2 that are just, they're favorites for sure. Favorites for me. I have a box set of Rage stuff, and these 2 were in it. This is Rage, Perfect Man. This one's from, we'll call this their 4th album because they do count their first album when they were under the name Avenger as their first album. So this is technically their 4th album. If you count that, this is Perfect Man from 1988. Just a great metal band. I wish I would have known about Rage back in the day and just kind of carried on with each new release. But I'm having fun getting on their catalog now. Anyways, one track, I just check out Sinister Thinking on here. What a track. I mean, what an album, period. So when that Rage ranking does come around in 1 or 2 years from now, I don't remember this album. It could be up there for sure. And the other one I picked out is the follow-up to this album from 1989. And yeah, 88 and 89. Putting out 2 albums like this is just, yeah, that just does not happen these days. But you know those back in the 80s when it was a new album every year or 2 years at the most. But here is Secrets in a Weird World. This is the follow-up, like I said. So this is their 5th studio album. And the Sound Chaser is on both covers. You might have a version that has a different cover with just a band shot. This was the intended cover. I think the band shot, I don't know if there's a photo in here. It doesn't matter. Anyways, but if you're newer to Rage, this one needs to be on your list. Yeah, just check out the whole album. But yeah, check out Make My Day. Time Waits for No One. Just a great album all around. Still putting out new material. They had a great album put out last year too. All right, so we're at Rage. We're going to jump to in the scheme of things, one of the newer bands. This band, and there's definitely some related names. There's actually a couple of guys here that were in a couple of these bands for sure, and notable names too, including the guy from this band, Ralph Sheepers. And I'm going to hold you up my favorite album from them. I did a ranking on Primal Fear. It's probably outdated by now, but I will wait till their new album comes out. It is called Domination, and it's going to be coming out September 5th via Reigning Phoenix Music, which you know, or if you don't know, absorbed. Actually, about a year ago, they absorbed the label Atomic Fire. So anybody that was on Atomic Fire just kind of automatically went on to Reigning Phoenix, which is, you know, Helloween's current label, and other bands, Kerry King, a couple other bands. Anyways, there we go. Nuclear Fire is my favorite Primal Fear album. This one came out in, what year did this come out? I think around 05, probably 2000, no, 1998 maybe, something like that. No, actually their debut came out in 98, so this is like early 2000s, but fantastic album. One of my very favorite Primal Fear tracks is on this album, and that is called Eye of the Eagle. But there's just so many good tracks on here. Angel in Black, the title track, Nuclear Fire. So yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to a new one from Primal Fear. There's been some lineup changes with those guys. They have Magnus Carlsen's still there, and of course Matt Sinner. Ralph and Matt are kind of the guys that are running the show. Ralph Sheepers and Matt Sinner. But they got a couple of new members in there, so looking forward to their new album. Like I said, coming out in September. And the other one I'll show you is just their latest album, which I really enjoyed this one. This is the one with the eagle on the cover. Actually, definitely an inside joke, but there's an eagle on every cover. But here's Code Red. This is, yeah, I think this was from 2022 or 2023. Hard to read. Anyways, really good album. I thought this one was slightly, maybe a little more than slightly better than Metal Commando, but yeah, this is really good variety on this one. I didn't like the track they started the album off with. I would have actually put, I think I said The World Is on Fire. I would have started the album off with, but they started off with more of a, I wouldn't say radio friendly, but Another Hero, one of those, you know, fist raising songs. But there's some great tracks on here too. Where's one of my favorite, a very heavy track, Rage by Pain, Steel Melter, and then there's always a standard kind of balladish song on a Primal Fear album. But there is a couple from Primal Fear. And moving on, let's go to, what do we have here? Gravedigger. Hey, Gravedigger's on my shirt. Brand new album just came out about a month ago called Bone Collector. That will be very soon on the channel, is a Gravedigger album ranking. These guys have been around since 1984. 21 studio albums, 22 if you count the one they just did under the name Digger. But I am going to rank them all, and yeah, just a great band. They're, what I said earlier, they fall into that category of one of the German so-called power metal bands. And yeah, this is, I would say, Gravedigger overall, out of, you know, the traditional speed and power, they're just more metal with elements sprinkled of the other stuff, like especially with a 21 album discography. But here's a couple of why I pulled these two out. These are what Gravedigger, what Chris Bottendall is able to do with this band, and who is the leader and founder of the band, is bring in great guitar players. So there has been quite a few lineup changes over the years, but when he brings in a guitar player, usually he's around for 6-7 albums, you know, and then kind of a change, refresh. Like their brand new album Bone Collector has a new guitar player, Tobias Kersling, who was formerly of a band called Orden Ogan. Anyways, on this one, Tunes of War, fantastic album. And I would say throughout the 90s, like 93 to 99, the Gravedigger with Uwe Lolason, and if that name's familiar, he is one of the guitar players for Accept right now. What a guitar player, and what a bunch of albums that they put out, though. I think there was 5 or 6 albums and an EP during that period that are just right in the middle of the 90s, like 93 to 99, just fantastic. And this is one of them. But yeah, Great guitar player, Uvalolus. But Tunes of War, check that one out. I'm not saying this one's my favorite yet. You'll have to watch the ranking to figure that, or to see that. And then I was talking about guitar players. So in the band Rage, which I did not talk about, Manny Schmidt is the guitar player on those 2 albums that I showed you. He went on to join Gravedigger for 5. He was on 5 albums, and this is one of them. This is Rheingold from, what year did this one come out? This is 2003. This is their 10th studio album. Yeah, and Manny Schmidt, another fantastic guitar player, and like I said, those Rage albums he was on probably 6 or 7 Rage albums. Then he went on to join Gravedigger for a while, and I'm not sure what he's up to these days, but here's another one. I would say check this one out if you're even just new and you want some bits and pieces of Gravedigger. Tunes of War or Rheingold, check those out. So that is number 6. Number 5, we're going to jump into, and you can see why I kind of went with this type of title, because, you know, some of these are just, like I said, they're just metal with these other elements in them. But if you look up any one of these bands, it will say things like heavy metal, it will say power metal, it will say speed metal, probably for all 10 or all 11. But next up on my list, here's a band that I again discovered them later, but fell in love with them and looking forward to a new album this year. I'm if I was a betting man, I would say it will be out by the end of 2025, and that's Running Wild. And this, there's a band I have not ranked yet, but here's again, I'm not going to commit to this as being my number 1, but this is one that I really, really like, and that is Black Hand In from whatever year. These reissues don't tell you the exact year, they just give you the reissue year. Yeah, just a fantastic album. Check out like tracks like the title track, Mr. Deadhead, or The Privateer. What a track that is. But Running Wild, and if you're going to throw in that pirate metal shit, yeah, they got some pirate metal theme. They're very thematic on some of that stuff, but man, they're just so much more. It kind of irritates me that they're labeled that, but I understand why. But again, they're just so much more. And what I'll show you is an EP that came out in 2019, 2 years before their newest album came out, Blood on Blood. But this is an EP that has 1 track from that new album in 2021, which is the title track of this EP called Crossing the Blades. But if you're a fan and you haven't heard this EP, there's 3 more tracks on here. And one is a cover of Kiss Strutter. And it is just an awesome cover song. The guitar work is just, and plus I love the song Strutter anyways, so it makes it even that much more fun. But track 4 also on here, Ride on the Wild Side, easily could have been on their new album, and I'm glad they put it on this EP so I was able to hear it. But yeah, and then there is another song called Stargazed, but the only cover song on here is Strutter. Obviously a Kiss song, but yeah, check this out if you haven't heard this or picked it up yet as part of your Running Wild collection. Coming in at number 4, what do we got here? Yeah, definitely number 4 and more on the power metal side than anything. And there is one key guy on here who's been on, he's been on a Blind Guardian album, but one of my favorite guys in all of metal is Kai Hansen. And here is my favorite Gamma Ray album. Gamma Ray has been around since 1990, 11 studio albums, but here is No World Order from 2001, which is a giveaway on my ranking, but here you go. Here's my number 1. A lot of people would put Land of the Free up there or Somewhere Out in Space, things like that. Hey, totally understand. Those are wicked albums. especially those noise years. This is not on noise, but it was on Metal Is label. But and this is one of my favorite album covers. Also, you got Fang Face on here, and Kai. Like I said, Kai is just awesome. I hope that one day there is another Gamma Ray album. I don't know if that will happen, but I'm just as happy he's back in Helloween. It was. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a second, but man, what a great album. And then the other thing I'll show you here is I don't have much for vinyl on Gamma Ray, mostly all the CDs, but I had to pick this up. This is Gamma Ray A Blast from the Past. So this is a great set. What do we got? 6 sides, so four to 5 of these, 4 to 6 of these sides are re-recordings from 2000. So I'll just read you the hype sticker and it explains everything. For the first time on vinyl, the unique collection revisiting songs from the first 10 years of Gamma Ray with Kai Hansen on vocals. So if you know the band, you'll know that Ralph Scheepers was the vocalist for the first 3 albums, and then Kai took over on Land of the Free. Remastered in 2022. And so these are, like I said, the first 4 sides are based on those 2000 re-recordings of, great tracks that, and nothing against the ones with Ralph, but I love Kai's voice. He's just has such a unique sound. I love him in Helloween. I love him here. But yeah, songs like Lust for Life or Heading for Tomorrow, or when he's singing Changes opposed to Ralph Scheepers. But love Ralph too, but love Kai just a little bit more. So if you haven't checked out this gives you, this is kind of a compilation basically, and it's pretty awesome. But there's Gamma Ray sitting at number 4. Number 3, yeah, definitely. And just a continuation of Kai Hansen and his band. And we talked about Helloween. So I'm going to show you kind of one of my pride and joys of box sets, and that is, if you told me I could only have this much Helloween in my collection, it would be this set, and that is Starlight, the Noise Years collection, which has, we'll show you right there, Walls of Jericho, Keeper 1 and 2. We got their Helloween EP from 1985. So Helloween's been around since 1985, 16 studio albums. And then there is another thing on here called The Best, The Rest, and The Rare. Just a fantastic set. And not that that's all I want from Helloween, but if you told me that's all I could have, that would be it right there. But yeah, the whole thing with Gamma Ray on hold and Kai going back to Helloween and Michael, I think it's fantastic, and I do think it was needed. They kind of needed a shot in the arm. Not that there was anything wrong with those later Helloween albums, but an album like My God Given Right, when did that come out? 2016, which was really actually a thin year for metal. I think that and Maiden's Book of Souls came out. I can't think of any real super notable albums, but like, it was definitely time for them to do what they're doing. I don't think even Gamma Ray or Kai or any of these individual guys or Helloween, the way they were, would be at the level they are at now. They're into another stratosphere as far as I'm concerned. I mean, they're packing places, they're touring the world, and I'll just hold up this little souvenir that I got of their last album from 2021, a little cassette that I haven't opened yet of the self-titled. Definitely high on my list of anticipation level for their new album. I think it won't be long till you see a song released from the new album. And another thing, they're putting out a set for, it's a celebration of 40 years. It's called March of Time. So it's basically 2 to 3 songs off every one of their albums. And that is coming out, I don't know, I think a month or so. Cool cover with this ring on it, and check it out. It's called Helloween, March of Time, 40 years of something. Definitely check it out. Like I said, really looking forward to that new album from Helloween, which will be out on Raining Phoenix Music. And they just put out a live album too, which was called, I picked it up. It's Live at Budokan. Was it necessary? Probably not, but hey, it's Helloween, I'm picking it up. So on to my number 2, and that is another one of my favorite guys in all of metal, and that is Udo Dirk Schneider and his band UDO, which started right the year after his last album he did with Accept, at the time anyways, which is Russian Roulette in 86, and then this masterpiece came out in 1987, which was intended to be the next Accept album, all written by Accept members, and they went in a different direction. A few years later, in 89, they came out with Eat the Heat, and UDO went and did their own thing. UDO, the band, has been around since 87, 18 studio albums, 19 if you count that one they did with that orchestration one, whatever. I usually don't count those ones as studio albums, but anyways, a lot of albums to check out. But here is my favorite, still the debut to this day. There's a lot of great UDO albums, but this one, awesome. And what I thought I would show you now is sometimes UDO also goes out under the name Dirk Schneider, which I wasn't going to pre-order this because I didn't like the first single, but I'm like, you know what? I need to smarten up because it's just a celebration album. So Dirk Schneider's coming out with Balls to the Wall Reloaded, with guest singers, things like that. And if I look at it like that as a celebration, you have Udo, who is 72 years old, still out there doing it. You know what? It is a celebration. Like I did say, the Balls to the Wall wasn't the greatest with. I had the singer from Sabaton. I'm not really that familiar with the band, but I just didn't like that version as much. But when the second song came out with Doro and Udo singing Winter Dreams, I was like, that is way better. So I'm definitely still buying the album and I'm checking it out for sure. But here's another recommendation. So under the moniker of Dirk Schneider, Live Back to the Roots, definitely check this one out if you haven't. And Balls to the Wall Reloaded. Give me your thoughts on that. Are you going to pick it up, or is it necessary? Probably not, but whatever. Like I said, it's a celebration album. And wrapping this one up is Accept. So you know what's coming with Accept. I'm going to show you, not only is this my all-time favorite, Accept album, this is my overall favorite heavy metal album of all time. Amongst an album in that Helloween set, which is called Walls of Jericho, which I absolutely love. Kai's singing on that one. So, but here is Restless and Wild, and this is the album cover that I was introduced to shortly after Balls to the Wall came out. This was reissued, and I had it on cassette originally, then CD, and then finally got a vinyl copy of it. But this is the cover that I always wanted, and a friend was kind enough to send me this one with the burning V's. But this album, just flawless metal album. I've said it over and over before, that if you were just new to metal or new to the planet and said, hey, what's heavy metal? I'd just hand you this album. I'd say, go sit down and listen to this thing. Fantastic. And Accept still going to this day. There was a 14-year gap where they weren't, and now they're Wolf Hoffman is the only original member, and their new vocalist, Mark Tonello. I have no problem with those guys. And the newest album, which is what did we have here? Humanoid. That one just came out earlier last year, didn't it? But here's still my favorite from that 6 albums with Tornillo on vocals. This is when they reformed 2010 Blood of the Nations. This was still when actually Stefan Schwartzman was on drums. Peter Baltes was on bass. You still had 2 original members at least, but And now Peter's in Udo's band, so that's, or UDO, so that's cool too. But there you go. Accept coming in at number 1. But like I said, those top, this isn't a ranking video. This is just a list of 10 of my my top 10 German heavy speed power metal bands. And yeah, let me know if you know a few of these bands in the comments. I'm sure you do. Let me know if I've missed one of your favorites too. But hope you enjoyed that one. Until next time, stay heavy.